The case for open borders is,
no.
on the surface, pretty attractive. We need a new immigration system. So what should it be?
I wonder if Raihan is going to tell you about this country's founding fathers and what they wrote about immigration. Is he going to tell you about the 1790 Immigration Act that restricted citizenship to, quote, free white men of good character? Will he regale us with the history of the 1924 Johnson-Reed Immigration Act, which established a national origins quota to ensure we were getting culturally compatible immigrants from Europe? The history of the United States, from our nation's founding up until 1965, is a history of strict immigration laws and high standards for the people that come here. We're told by conservatives and by the left that ours is a nation of immigrants. Thus, we have a moral obligation to open our borders. They don't tell you that up until 1965, the immigrants integral to their nation of immigrants myth were meticulously selected in accordance with national origin and their compatibility with American people and culture.
Tens of millions of people around the world would be grateful to come to America for the chance to live in peace and earn a decent living.
Conservatives and the left both fail to draw the connection between bad circumstances in a country, war, civil unrest, crime, and the people that live in those foreign countries. Conservatives and the left both ascribe to a sort of magic dirt theory that the U.S. is a relatively peaceful, successful nation by virtue of being the United States, nothing more, and having our American Constitution. If people want to come here from their war-torn, S-hole countries to live in peace, surely they won't bring those horrible conditions with them, right? A country's fortune is determined by a variety of factors: prevalence of resources, geography, climate, but more important than all of those factors are the people. Industrious, intelligent, pro-social people can carve society out of nothing. The pioneers in the American West, for example. Conversely, even peoples blessed with a pantheon of natural resources will never advance past a tribal existence if they don't have the ability, social inclination, or desire to create society.
Liberals and conservatives disagree on how extensive this safety net ought to be, but they all agree it needs to be there. The question is, how far are we willing to stretch it?
Actually, Mr. Salam, that isn't the question. Immigration inevitably makes the country more diverse, meaning white people, as a percentage of the country, decline. Is this something that Americans want? Do Americans want to become a racial and ethnic minority in the country their ancestors built? Nobody ever voted on this. Americans were never asked if they want to become a minority. I know I certainly don't. If I wanted to live in a country where the majority population spoke Spanish, I would move to Mexico. If I wanted to live in a country with third world socialist policies, I'd move to Venezuela. I like America the way it is, the way it was built by the Americans that came before me.
Immigrant engineers working for Google, Amazon, and Apple do just fine without government help. The immigrant janitors and busboys who serve them struggle to afford housing and to give their kids a decent start in life. Without government aid, many would go hungry.
Sorry, but how is that my problem? If you can't give your kids a decent start in life in the United States, then maybe think about going back where you came from. The well-being of every poor child in the world is not my concern, and I actually couldn't care less. I care infinitely more about the children of Americans, my fellow countrymen that I actually have something in common with, than I do about the children of someone who hopped the border to clean toilets in Dennis Prager's mansion.
Immigration has always been part of the American story, and it continues to be an essential source of talent, from Silicon Valley to medicine to pro sports.
Oh geez, whatever would we do without millionaire basketball players and foreign IT workers?
A skills-based point system would be a huge boon for people around the world looking to live the American dream. It would give them a predictable, step-by-step guide for how to better their chances at a green card. Just as importantly, by prioritizing immigrants with strong skills, we'd make the safety net much easier to sustain for those with low skills whom we'd still admit, albeit at a more modest level.
It really is all about the bottom line with this guy. It's seriously all about tax revenue. I can't imagine being this out of touch with what regular Americans care about. Our country is more than just the economy, guy. It's more than just an Excel spreadsheet for you to tinker around with until you can put our bottom line back in the black. We're a nation, and we care about the well-being of people in our communities more than the feelings of a foreigner that wants to come live the American dream in the United States. Notice the total disregard for the well-being of Americans. Nowhere in this video, nowhere, did he address what would be good for us. He only spoke about what would be good for tax revenues and foreigners. There is a reason conservative capitalist elites want to give tech companies the ability to write our immigration policies for us. They're literally taking a paycheck from big tech. In February of 2019, Google CEO Sundar Pichai made a very interesting admission. Google, one of the largest tech companies in the world and a direct beneficiary of wage-suppressing immigration, had made financial contributions to, drumroll please, you guessed it, the National Review Foundation. Quote, Google has a long history of supporting organizations on all sides of the political spectrum, said Pichai. Google was one of several corporate sponsors for the National Review Institute's William F. Buckley Prize Dinner in 2018, which is scheduled to be reported in our upcoming transparency report. Isn't that interesting? Doesn't that get the old noggin joggin'? Google, a direct beneficiary of low-wage immigrant labor, donates a huge sum of money to National Review. The National Review's lead editor then gets up in front of conservatives to make the case that we need drastically more immigrants to come and work in the IT sector in the United States. Like I said at the beginning, the conservative elites are paid to trick you. They trick you into believing dumb garbage about free markets and bootstraps and the American dream, while convincing you to support policies that will totally screw over the American working class and displace us in our own country. This is why we need a third position in American politics, beyond free market, pro-capitalist Republicans and open border third world socialist Democrats. I don't mean big-brained nihilist centrism either. I mean a philosophy that can address the shortcomings of capitalism without devolving into communism, an economic style that promotes industry and self-reliance without treating people as atomized consumer-producer units that can be interchanged at any point. What we don't need is paid liars like Reihan Salam, people that take a big paycheck from big tech, turn about face, and attempt to hoodwink decent people, decent conservatives, into supporting their economic and social demise.